Ahoy, this is Zdenka. This is Blackmagic Camera app updated in-depth tutorial covering the best camera settings and tips. Let's do this. For those who are not familiar with Blackmagic Camera app, it is the best filmmaking app for smartphones, which is absolutely free. I'll link it below. Let's start with the basic interface. The first icon on the left will take you to all your lenses. I'm using an iPhone 16 Pro. Here is ultra-wide angle camera, one-time main camera, digital crop 2x camera, and lastly 5x telephoto camera. The last option is a selfie camera. The next icon will take you to frame rates. I generally film most of my videos in 24 frames per second. For music videos and combination with action cameras, I film at 30 frames per second. For cinematic clips, I prefer filming at 60 frames per second as I can slow it down. And if I need even slower motion, then I film at 120 frames per second. For filming in automatic mode, you just tap on the screen to lock focus and exposure, and you are ready to film. I, however, recommend filming in manual mode as you will get much better results. Let me show you how to do this. Shutter speed is next. If you film in automatic mode, the shutter speed will be quite high. You're not going to get natural motion blur. That is why it is best to set it up manually. It's very important to set your shutter speed based on what frame rate you are using. You will simply double the shutter speed. So if you film at 24 frames per second, you will set it to 1/48. The nice thing about this app is that when you change the frame rate, for example, to 30 frames per second, notice that the shutter speed has automatically changed to 1/60. Once you set your correct shutter speed, lock it here at the top. Iris, which is Aperture, is grayed out as it cannot be adjusted. It is fixed. You will see a different number based on the camera you select. Ultra-wide camera has f2.2 aperture and one-time main camera has 1.8, for example. The lower the aperture, the better it will perform in low light, as it allows more light in. So for filming at night, you might want to film mainly with your one-time main camera or telephoto, as they are both f1.8. You will also get more blurred background than you would get with ultra-wide camera. The timer is next, so once you start recording, you can see the length of the video. Let's move to the ISO on the right. ISO controls sensitivity to light. It's like our eyes. The more light you will get to our eyes, the more we will squint, close our eyes. So the lower the number you select, the darker the image will be. The higher number you select, for example indoors or in low light, the lighter image will get, but it will also get some noise or grain in the image. It usually happens if you use higher ISO over 800 and up. It is always best to keep ISO as low as possible when you film outdoors, and to bring the ISO all the way down, you will always end up with this bleached image, so you have to use ND filter. I'm using Freewell ND filter. It just attaches magnetically to Freewell phone case, and then I turn it to darken the image. You don't need to use ND filter indoors or in low light, as most likely you will be actually bringing the ISO higher instead. Each camera has different lowest ISO. If you select ultra-wide camera, you can go all the way to 15. If you select main camera, you can go to 54. If you select telephoto camera, you can get to 34. And selfie camera lets you select 20. Let's move to the next setting, and that is white balance. It's very important to select the correct white balance and lock it to get consistent look for all the clips you're going to film. Right now it is set to auto. Let's disable the auto and set it manually. You can tap on the presets. Here is cloudy, shade, and sunny, for example. The best way, however, is set white balance manually. If you bring the value down to 2500 Kelvin, you will get cool blue tones. If you bring it all the way up, you will get very yellow tones. The best is to use a piece of white paper and just adjust the white balance until you will get the correct white, or you just use your own eyes and select what you think is right. Tint controls greens if you slide it up, and magenta colors if you slide it down. So once you adjust white balance, you can control tint as well. Once you set your white balance and tint, don't forget to lock it. The next icon tells you what resolution you are filming at. In my case, it's 4K, and battery level. If you don't see, for example, the battery level icon, it's because you might have it turned off in the settings. I will go through all the settings later on. Let's take a look at the rest of the indicators on the screen. LUT icon means that I am filming in log profile and I have Rec 709 LUT enabled. I will explain what that means once we explore settings where you can enable it all. Histogram below tells you if you have the image properly exposed. Ideally, you want to have all the information in the middle. If I point at something very dark, now you can see that all information moved to the left, so the image is underexposed. If I point to something very bright, now it has all moved to the right. In the middle at the bottom is where you can see how much storage is available. So with the settings I have selected, 4K resolution, I can record up to 1 hour and 36 minutes. On the right, you see audio monitor. When you hit that, you will see it displayed on the screen, and it also tells me that the audio is being recorded through iPhone's built-in microphone. Let's move to the right side and explain the rest of the controls here. Let's hit the first icon. That will bring out all these tools. The first icon enables the zebra pattern. Once you enable that, the parts of the image that are overexposed will have this zebra pattern. You can also readjust the percentage of the zebra. There are also 2 more options, mid-gray and MG+1. That is 1 step above mid-gray. Those are for much advanced filmmakers. I honestly don't even use zebra that much, very rarely. Histogram is just enough. The next icon will take you to focus peaking. Let's enable that. Whatever is in focus will be red. I like to use focus peaking for macro photography, for example. I find that I don't need it as much for video, but if there are times where you're unsure if your subject is in focus, this tool can really help. You can also adjust the strength with the slider. The next icon will take you to composition tools. The first one is the rule of thirds grid. This really helps to keep the horizon straight, and it also helps with composition. It is best to always have it enabled, as it is a constant reminder to get things done well. The next tool is spirit level. You will see the cross in the middle. When you will get the horizon level well, the color will change from white to blue. The next icon is crosshatch, and the next one is the center button. Let's hit the next icon, which is the aspect ratio marker. These are guides. It's not going to crop your video to a certain aspect ratio. You can select any aspect ratio you need. In case you're wondering, the most common aspect ratio for the wide look with those black bars at the top and bottom is 2.39 by 1. Safety markers are next. When you enable this and keep your subject within the rectangle, once the video is played on different screens with different sizes, no subject part will be missing. The next icon enables false color. Purple color shows completely black areas, and red color is for areas that are overexposed. On the left is where it is explained what those colors represent. The tool is there in case you need it. I personally don't use it. The last icon controls LUT that you can place on top of log profile. Right now I am filming in log, so if I turn off the LUT, I get this gray looking video. Once I enable LUT, I can see how the footage will actually look like. When you see the red LUT show up on the left, then you know it's on. Let's tap on the next icon that takes us to Focus and Focus Pull feature. Right now the focus is set to automatic, so when I film and wherever I point, it will automatically focus on what it feels the best. If you tap on a screen, you select your focus. If you tap and hold, you will lock the focus and also exposure. You can also manually select focus with the slider. Let's hit this icon at the bottom that takes us to Focus Pull. All these controls show up, and as you can see, they are all grayed out. They don't do anything if I tap on it. How do you enable Focus Pull? Tap on the first subject you want in focus. These colorful arrows will show up. Once you press 1, now you can see that this icon is no longer gray. The first starting point has been registered. Let's select another area and press now 2. Let's do one more, number 3. Now we have all of them selected. If I press 1, 2, 3, I can see a quick preview of the focus pull. The focus pull is very quick now, as by default it is set to 0.5 seconds. Let's select 2 seconds standard length for focus pull. Let's hit play button, and now you can see it's taking me from one point to the other point. How do we play all 3 points? There is one more control button. Once you hit that, you can switch to playing all 3 points. Let's hit play. If you want to delete any of these points, you just select the point and hit delete. If you want to reset the whole thing, you just press the reset button at the top. So this was automatic focus pull. The next icon is exposure value. If you are filming in automatic mode and find that the image is too bright, you can bring it down a bit here, just like you would be filming in native camera app. Now I have all manual settings enabled, so once I hit that, it will take me to ISO controls. Stabilization is next. You can turn it off if you will be using tripod, or you can enable one of the 3 choices: standard, cinematic, and extreme. Standard is the basic stabilization. Cinematic is stronger. And extreme is the strongest. When you select cinematic or extreme, there will be a bit of a digital crop, and also when you hit record, the LUT will be disabled, so you will see the log gray footage. However, if you have in the settings enabled record LUT to into footage, once you stop recording, the clip will have the LUT in. Digital zoom is next. You can select the zoom you want. It is digital though, not optical, so I don't use it. It's always best to get physically closer or just choose a different lens. The last setting takes you to board, where you can name and add details to all your clips you are filming. This is for advanced filming, such as filming a music video or a movie. So these were all camera tools. Let's go to media. Here are all recorded clips. This icon takes you to your phone default album. The second icon lets you select multiple clips that you can upload or send to whoever you need to. You can also delete them. If you have Blackmagic Cloud, you can upload the clips there and it will sync into your computer. I don't use this feature. Chat is for cloud again, I don't use this. Let's hit the last icon that takes us to all the settings. As you can see, it is all divided into many pages. The first one is record, so let's start here, as it is very important to understand and set all these before you actually start filming. The first one will take us to a selected codec. There are several options here. The first codecs take a lot of storage. When you hit the first one, you can see that I have only a few minutes of recording time. It really eats up a lot of storage. I prefer using HEVC. It saves a lot of storage. As you can see, I have much more recording time. When you scroll down, you will get to bitrate. If you select low bitrate, you get even more shooting time. If you go with max, you get less. By default, it is set to high, and I prefer to keep it there. Let's go back and hit the next setting. That takes us to resolution. 4K, HD, that is 1080p, or the lowest one, 720p. I keep it at 4K at all times as that is the highest resolution. The next setting takes us to color space. There are several choices here. Rec 709 is the most common look you typically get in native camera app. If you like HDR look, you can select Rec 2020 HDR. P3D 65 is another choice, but it requires more work in post-processing. And the last one is Apple Lock HDR. If you don't see it there, it's because it's only available for iPhones line 15 and up. Apple Lock HDR gives you this very gray look that has lots of information and highlights and shadows. You need to add a lot to it to be able to see the normal footage. It is worth filming an Apple Lock as the footage will be way nicer than regular video. Timecode display is next. You can set it to record run or time of the day. If you select time of the day, you will actually see the exact time on the camera interface. I prefer to keep it on record run, which is the default. The next setting is time-lapse recording. Once you enable that, you will see the record button change, and also you can see here that it will record 1 frame every minute. When you go back to settings, you can select proper interval. For example, I can select take 1 frame every 2 seconds. If media drops is next. If there is a problem while you are recording, you can choose if you want the app to alert you or if you want the app to stop recording. This was all about record. Let's go to the next page that covers all camera settings. The first thing you see is enable vertical video. When you turn your phone sideways, you can see that now I am able to record in vertical mode. If you don't have that enabled and turn your phone sideways, it will still record in horizontal mode. However, the resolution will be lower. It is better to have that enabled so you can choose in what mode you want to record. Trigger record indicator I have set to none. I simply don't want any sound such as beeper or flash. The only time I would use it is perhaps for a selfie video to alert me. However, I prefer if there is no sound when pressing record button. Use volume button to trigger record lets you just press the volume button to start recording. Lock white balance on record is next. This I highly suggest having enabled. You will get much better overall look even when you film in automatic mode. The white balance will not shift while recording. The next setting is while recording, swipe right to dim the screen. I prefer this off as I don't like the screen to get dark when I record. I prefer seeing the video at all times. This is only useful if you record for long periods of time, such as a concert, and want to save the battery. Shutter measurement is next. Shutter speed is more common and easier to understand, so I suggest keeping it there. If you switch it to angle, it will show angle under shutter speed. Flicker-free shutter based on is next. The choices are 50 Hz or 60 Hz. You will select the one you need based on where you live. PAL region such as Europe, set to 50 Hz. If you live in Canada or USA, set it to 60 Hz. This is where I will keep it, as I live in Canada. Lens connection is next. It is good to have it always enabled, as it takes away any distortion. Anamorphic squeeze is next. If you are going to be using lens like this one, this is free will anamorphic lens, you have to select what version of the lens you have, 1.33 times or 1.55 times. Once you do that, you will see the correct look. If you don't enable it, the image will be very distorted. You are not going to get the wide angle look. Flip image for SLR lenses is next. There are adapters you can get to be able to use SLR lenses. I know that most people won't use them, so just keep that setting to off. Lock current orientation. When you enable that and you rotate the phone, all the controls will stay in the same direction. It's not going to turn. Mirror front-facing camera is the last setting on this page. If you want the image to be flipped, you can enable it here. Let's move to the audio settings page. Let's go to audio source. Right now you see that there is only iPhone microphone, as I'm not using any external microphone. Once I plug in external microphone, it will automatically switch to the wireless microphone. When you go to camera interface and hit the audio bars, I can adjust the audio gain if I find it is way too strong. The next setting takes us to audio microphone. By default, it is set to auto. I would keep it there at all times. If you need specific microphone, you can always switch it here. Audio format is next. By default, it is set to AAC. That is the standard one. Let's just keep it there. Record audio as is next. By default, it is set to stereo. I would just keep it that way. Sample rate lets us choose between auto and these two other options. By default, it is set to auto. Let's just go with that. Audio metering is next. There are some choices here. You just go with the default. Most of the people won't need to play with all these settings. If you enable audio monitor, you can use other gear such as wireless transmission system. Let's go to another page, which is monitor. Here you can customize tools such as focus peaking. When I enable focus peaking, you can see that the color is red. Here in the settings, you can change the color. You can change guide's opacity and color and grid's opacity. Let's take a look at big feature called HDMI out. When you connect the phone via USB-C Type-C to monitor, you can see the feed here. You can choose if you want to monitor the display or send only the video. You can choose just the video or add any of these controls. Display audio meters, and these next few controls are on by default, so you can actually see them on the camera interface. The only one I keep off is the display upload status, as I don't use Blackmagic Cloud. Let's go to the media page. Record proxy is the first setting. Those are copies of original video, but in much smaller size. This is used in post. I just keep it off, as again, I don't use the cloud. The next settings are also for the cloud. Auto upload to selected project and enable upload only over Wi-Fi. Let's hit the save clips too. You can choose where you want the files to be saved. Only in the app or in the app and also phone library. Keep in mind though that it will take a lot more storage on the phone because the files will be saved in two different places. If you use SSD external memory card, you can select correct location under files here. Below is where you can enable save location data to clip. By default, the files are named as Blackmagic Camera, but if you prefer iOS file names, you can switch it here. Let's leave media and go to Luts. If you will film in Apple Log, you will find this section extremely important. When you have display LUT off, you will only see this washed out gray image. When you enable the display LUT option, you will see the normal color, and you will also see the red LUT icon. This means that the LUT is being recorded to the video, as I also enabled it here, record LUT to a clip. That means that I'm just applying a conversion LUT Rec 709 to epilogue footage. That means I don't have to do that step in the post, but then I will just color grade that further. If you disable this feature, the LUT icon will be white. That means that it's not recorded to the clip. You're only previewing how the footage will look like once you add the LUT in the video editing software. Color tag I have selected to Rec 709 as I am adding the LUT already to the video. Let's go to the next section, that is presets. This is very handy. If I film, for example, outdoors in 60 frames per second and I have all settings the way I like, I just save it as a new preset. I do the same for 24 frames per second, for example. The next time I'm outdoors, I don't have to do all the settings manually. I just hit the saved preset and it will all adjust automatically. You can also import and export presets. Let's go to the accessories page. The only accessory available is the wireless lens control. This is for much advanced filming. Remote camera control is next. Here you can use another phone as a remote or monitoring device. You will simply enable this, select one phone as controller, and second phone you will set as remote camera. It will be connected via Wi-Fi. Blackmagic Cloud login is below. Reset, that will reset the whole app to the default, and About tells you the version of the app. If you are brand new into smartphone filmmaking and you're a little bit overwhelmed by this and you would prefer to learn the basics first, I actually have a smartphone filmmaking course available. I'll link it below. Give it a thumbs up if you found this video helpful and don't forget to subscribe for more. Meanwhile, I'll see you in one of those next. Ciao, ahoj!